Today I'd like to show you how you can do a fantastic upgrade on your Harbor Freight lathe. This particular one is not exactly Harbor Freight, but because I live in Spain and we don't have Harbor Freight here, but I guarantee you it's pretty much the same. It's got everything standard about Harbor Freight. It's got its cast iron bed, the Reeves drive, variable speed. In my particular case, the quarter horsepower motor that it had in it, the starter windings went out, and I had to always help it to give it a start. So it was a question of whether I was going to buy a new lathe or upgrade this one. I tried the wash machine motor thing, and that was definitely a fail. It was noisy. It didn't run properly. I wouldn't believe any of the hype you hear about the wash machine motors. Forget that. What I did was I put a 1.5 horsepower motor in here, variable speed, but it's three-phase. I only have one phase here in the house, so I got myself a VFD. Now with the VFD, it gives me all the control I need. I can go forward and reverse. I can adjust the speed. It's really smooth, it's really quiet. I can reverse the motor. Once again, everything works perfectly. What I haven't done yet is you can add additional switches for start and stop and for reverse and anything else you want to do. So let me show you what I did to make it, to set it all up. The hardest part really was the mounting of the motor. The Harbor Freight motor typically mounts close on this side, which also makes a problem. Which also problematic whenever you want to turn a big piece of wood. Maybe it gets close sometimes to the motor. The motor I put on the opposite side, and that was where the problem came in. Well, it wasn't a problem, but it just required a little more work to be able to fix the mounting brackets. Let me take this apart and let me show you how I've got it all set up. So as you can see, I've taken the covers off, and it's still got the original Reeves drive on here. The hardest part was to get the motor firmly mounted in there. So what I do is I took some square tubing. It's the only one. I probably could have gotten some more heftier material, but this is what I had in the shop. And I put a large one and a small one, two square tubes coming down here to support the motor underneath here. I also used the cast iron original part of the base with the original screws, and fixed a bracket along this way too with a square angle iron. So this part here gives me some added support. I took some really small square tubing to make and added this to give it a base for the cover. I put elongated holes down under here so that the motor can be pulled back and forth to tighten up the belt. I suppose eventually what I want to do is get just a tad smaller pulley, because I never get anywhere near the high end of the VFD in speed range. So, and then what I have is I got power coming in, goes to the switch, the original switch, and then from the original switch it goes up to the VFD. From the VFD I've got my three phases that come back and are wired into the motor. It's really a simple process. In theory, the only hard part, like I said, was to give it a nice solid base so that the motor there was no vibration at all in the motor. I think it's pretty smooth, really. got a little vibration from the, because I have the screws out on the piece of tin here holding the back cover. Now as for the covers, just whatever scrap metal I had lying, sheet metal I had lying around. That's a side plate. Another piece of scrap sheet metal that I had lying around. Fits in there. And I suppose I could have used the original plate, but I didn't want to cut anything off the original parts, so I made a new side plate for the and put the screws back in, and Bob's your uncle. I'd highly recommend this. The motor cost me 130 euros for the 1 horsepower 3-phase motor, and it was 98 euros for the VFD. I think I paid also like 5 or 10 bucks, 10 euros for the pulley too. Didn't have the size pulley that I was looking for. And other than that, this was an upgrade that was well worth the money in my experience, because if I had gone out and bought a lathe with all this capability, then I would have been spending well upwards of 1,000, 2,000 euros for a new lathe that had all these capability. And it looks pretty good. It doesn't look like an eyesore in the shop. I've seen other ones that have this treadmill motors and things hanging off of it, and this one looks almost, there's a little boxy, but it looks almost like it was meant to be. So that's my upgrade for the Harbor Freight lathe. I hope it helps.